let's talk about the Coral Welsh Grand National first of all, shall we? Super Survivor and Naslam towards the top of the betting, 5-1 for Jamie Snowden's horse, Gary Moore, George, with Naslam at 8-1 shot. Wayfinder, Rebecca Curtis 25s. I Will Do It, former winner of this race, 15-2. Autonomous Cloud. We had Ella McNeil on the show last week, and I was saying, I quite fancy this horse. And she was very, very bullish of a big run. Did I back him at 16-1? No. Which makes it all the more galling that it's now 11-2. George, doesn't really matter though, because as much as I like Autonomous Cloud and very keen for that horse to run well for Ella, you're going to win this, aren't you?
Yeah, like we always thought he'd enjoy this sort of a test, Nassalam. Like if you look back on his juvenile hurdle campaign, like the deeper the ground was, the better he was. And he was just out of sorts last year. I can't really explain why. He just wasn't himself all year, and actually ran some cracking races still. But he certainly has enjoyed the return to heavy ground the last day, so that would be a help for him if we could get it. But it looks unlikely. He certainly enjoyed the more testing ground. We've always thought he'd be a staying chaser. And so if you look at his form, he's run twice over further than 3 miles and been well beaten both times. But they were both last season when he was really just sort of not in love with the game. Crucial, though, I think, to him is he's got a record of 2 from 2 wearing blinkers. He won at Fontwell. It was at Fontwell and Novice Chase when he was wearing them. And I just think last year he was so wrong in himself. He just never got round to putting them on him. And I actually saw him school the day before the Welsh National trial wearing them with Keelan. And like, I sort of seen him galloping down to first with the blinkers on. I went, well, that'd be interesting. Let's see what these do. And my God, he flew up there. Like, looked a completely different horse, turned inside out. And I was half watching him going, hey, steady now, Keelan, steady now. Like, he was throwing him at fences. Like, it was like the whole string was cantering down the 7 past it. I think all of us were sort of watching like, geez, if he says no, we'll be digging you out next week. Like, but he looked a totally different horse, and that, like, seeing him that day sort of meant I wasn't too surprised to see him run how he did. If they have the same effect again, I think he'll be very, very hard to beat. Like he's got a horse with a lot of quality for this sort of race. Like we've always thought of him very highly. Like he wouldn't be far below top class. So if we can find that sort of horse again, I think he'll be hard to beat. So looking at ones at fancier prices, I was hoping for a bigger price, but I half fancy the Galloping Bear to run well. Like he's making his seasonal reappearance in the race, which isn't ideal in a race of like this sort of nature. But he was declared to run on the 6th, I believe. So he should be fairly fit. And all his seasonal reappearances have been at least decent. He was running well in this race last year when he fell 4 out. He wasn't going to win, but he was running fairly well. Like he sort of got a few times he got outpaced and sort of stayed on again. He just kept finding, which I like for a horse in a race of this nature. He's shown aptitude for this sort of a test as well. And it's his first run since wind surgery in the summer. And given 2 starts ago, he ran to an RPR of 148. The fact that they then felt it necessary to give him a win knock suggests they think he's capable of better. So I think I'm a bit disappointed that he's ended up 11-1. If there was a little bit of a drift on the day, which there may be, I could see Truckers Lodge starting shorter. The big breakaway tends to have his supporters as well. If he ended up about 16s, I'd take a punt on him each way with the extra places.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. To be fair, horses who are well backed actually have a very good record in this race. It tends to be a horse that there is obviously always going to be some sort of big priced horse who shines. Two Amigos was a 16-1 shot last year, but Secret Reprieve was heavily backed favorite. Elegant Escape, Native River. Those two are really crucial because they're the only 2 winners in the last decade to win this race off 11 stone more or more. And that's the one thing I don't like about Naslam is that like he's in this 4 pounds well in, but he's carrying 11 stone 6. The going is currently soft. like the one thing I'd say about him though is he's a big, strong horse. Like he should be able to carry the weight.
He's got feet like dinner plates. Like he's a big, strong horse. Like he has done. His feet have been that size since he was 3. Like when he turned up, he was the funniest little horse. He was a chunky little thing. He wasn't over big. He had massive feet, massive shoulders, massive back end, but he was just quite small. So if you went back and watched his debut for us now, you would almost look at that and go, that will be running in a Welsh National one day. And that was a 2-mile juvenile hurdle in the heavy. May have been heavy or soft, but it was deep either way. So look at it now. Yeah, it was heavy ground. I think he's well suited to this sort of a test. And if you want to say, like the 2 horses you're saying that have won it with 11 stone plus, was it Native River and...
Yeah, one is literally a Gold Cup horse in Native River, and the other was Elegant Escape.
If you want to ask me if he's anywhere near them, I think he could be. I really think that much of him. I said, you forget last year, absolutely forget everything that happened between October and April. And you actually look, he's rarely been out of the first 2. There's that one run in the Fred Winter. If you take out last season, the Fred Winter and the Beecher are the only time he's been outside the first 2. And
I'm loving the confidence. Yeah, I'm loving the confidence. Look, there's an awful lot to like about this horse. I think he's got an ideal profile for the race. That performance the last day, the blinkers point that you're making is a really important one to make as well. And the performance the last day had Welsh National winner written all over it. But before I give my final decision here, Katie, what's your thoughts on the Welsh Grand National?
Yeah, I'd have to agree with George. I quite liked the look of Naslam, but I thought he might mention him. So I had another look through a race, and I picked out a horse called Autonomous Cloud, who you touched on, Emmet. So
Ella McNeil's ears are burning.
Yeah. Look, I just kind of thought this looks the ideal race for this horse. He's plenty of positive trends for this race, and he's ticking all the right boxes for me. He's a nice rating of 135, and he's a nice weight. I think he was around 10.9, but I think he might be going up £4. I'll have to check that. But look, he was a really easy winner last time out, and you could question how strong the race was, but I thought he did it pretty easily. He's proven over the 3-mile trip on heavy ground, so if it came up soft, he'll still handle that. He's form on soft ground, so that won't be an issue there. He's had a prep run for this race, which wasn't too taxing on him. Look, he's a 7-year-old who is lightly enough raced for his age, but I think he's only been out of the placings on maybe one occasion in 10 starts, I think it is. Look, his course form, which is what you need around there. He was placed second, I think, over hurdles, only beaten a short distance. But I think he looks kind of a progressive type. I think he's got an ideal weight for this type of race, and I think he'll be suited by conditions on the day. I think I'll probably be siding with him at the moment. So that's my pick.
And I wouldn't put anybody off. Literally, Ella McNeil, very, very confident about the horse last week, and would come out well on time form rating as well. I think the danger is unfortunately very, very obvious to the bookmakers, which is why they've cut him to favourite. I think it's Super Survivor. I'll make a case for Rebecca Curtis's horse, Wayfinder. I think he is capable of a very big run here. Mightn't be able to win, but he certainly could give you a run for your money in place. Fell way too early at Cheltenham to know what would have happened, but it was a nice comeback run at Cheltenham in October behind Wacker Clan. He fell at the 3rd at Cheltenham. There's no idea to know what would have happened that day. But the run behind Naslam the last day was good. He's only off 10 stone. Mark of 125. He has a featherweight. It's Rebecca Curtis at a home track. I can see him being in the first 4, not necessarily from a win perspective. Naslam is going to be very hard to beat, but he's got to give a fair chunk of weight to Super Survivor. This is Jamie Snowden's a trainer I absolutely love. And the more you see of him, the more you like him. And Gavin Sheehan's going to be on board. And he wasn't on board the last day. when it was two exciting, unexposed horses of Jamie Snowden's taking each other on. Gavin chose right. Sean Bone was on board. This fella did nothing wrong. He was sent off favourite. So even though Gavin was on the other one, still the market spoke in Super Survivor's favour. And I don't think he lost anything in defeat that day. And he'll improve, I think, for going back up in distance. He was very well fancied for that handicap chase after Cheltenham at Uttoxeter that Autonomous Cloud won. And I don't really know why he didn't perform as well as he could that day. He ended up being beaten 17 lengths, but I'd just draw a line through that. I'd be much more interested in what he did on this day exactly a year ago when he beat Mr. Coffee, good old Mr. Coffee, by 5 lengths. And I'd imagine this has just been the plan ever since. Get him back to the Welsh Grand National. And they've pulled it off beautifully. 2 runs. Didn't happen from Uttoxeter. Nice prep run to get him started for the new season back in November. Plenty of time to recover from that. And you're in here off 130. There's a lot to like about him, except for his price. And Naslam would have a little bit more experience. Who's going to ride Naslam?
I think it'll be Keelan again. I would have thought.
So he's going to take a little bit of weight off him then as well.
Yeah, 5 pounds off. Yeah.
Naslam all day, son. Naslam. Can we really get 8-1? I don't think we can. Can we? Nah. It's more like 11-2, isn't it?
I'm seeing 11-2. Yeah.
You can get 7-1 Naslam.
Yeah, I've changed it. The best odds there is 8, isn't there? I'm not sure it's real. 8,
you can get 7-1 Naslam with a very big firm who do actually lay bets. I don't know how much you can get on at 8, but you can definitely get 7s. That's too big. That's way too big. Naslam wins. Another big race, festive success for the Moore team after landing the gamble of all gambles on the all-weather the other day. One for the good guys. How much abuse did you get on Twitter for that one, George?
Yeah, fair amount, yeah. I wish I'd made any money out of it. Because I got the abuse like I did.
Oh. Good man, Tom Quealy. Good man. That's more of it. Yeah, by the way, Katie and I didn't know anything about that. We weren't told at all. And we were both bollocking George before this podcast started. You could have sent us a DM. Man, oh man. Let's head to Leopard. So final selections for everybody. It's Naslam for George and I. Katie, you're going to go against us with Ella McNeil's Autonomous Cloud.
Yeah.
All right. Paddy Power Chase. Same day, 3 miles, half a furlong. Panda Boy, 7-1 favorite from Desert Moor House. Meeting of the Waters. Very interesting runner. Owned by Patrick. Incredibly well backed at Cork the other day. I think he was 8-1 the night before. He might have even been a double figure price. That wasn't available on the day. He ends up being sent off a well-backed, even money shot. Gardasil for Gordon is a 12-1 shot. Am I right? Around about the same price. He can get 14s. And Adamantly Chosen, who I think is interesting, at 16-1. Katie, who wins one of the most devilishly, fiendishly difficult handicaps of the season?
So I thought this race was very difficult to pick apart. There was 2 horses that I kind of whittled it down to. And the first one I'm going to touch on is Desert Moor House for Martin Brazel. I thought he really made a name for himself after winning the Kerry National. He scraped in at the bottom of the weights as a reserve. But look, it was an ultra competitive handicap on the day. He's quite lightly raced for an 8-year-old. I think Martin does very well with this type of horse, and he looks like he's plenty more ability left in the tank. He was hiked up a good bit in the weights, but I still think he's off a winnable mark, off 145, I think it is. He's 11.7, probably a little bit more weight than you'd like, but I do think he's plenty of ability there, and I do think he can step up again off the back of his Kerry National win. This is probably a little bit more of a stronger race maybe, but I don't think conditions will be a problem for him, and I do think he deserves to be going at the top of the market. A horse there that I'm really intrigued by is a horse you just mentioned, Meeting of the Waters. It's unbelievable where this horse come from. I think he was in, was it Eugene O'Sullivan's? I think he might have been.
Yeah, I think so.
And I think he's had 3 runs now for Willie Mullins, and he's got a lovely mark over fences. after breaking his maiden on his third attempt. I think he's got a rating of about 130, if I'm correct. But he's not lightly raced. He's ran plenty of times, so he's plenty of experience going forward for this. I don't think the ground will be too much of an issue, whether it comes up good or if it comes up softer. I don't think it will. But he's stepping up and trip again. I don't think that'll be a problem. I think that might be a benefit to him. But he does have that question mark there. That would be my only small doubt with him. But his weight, he's a lovely lightweight, and I think he'll sneak in off near the bottom of the handicap, and I think he's very unexposed. I just don't think. I think there is plenty more improvement to come from this horse, and I don't think Willie's even kind of scraped the surface with him. But yeah, he's one that I'm kind of really interested in.
Yeah, he's a very, very, very intriguing horse in this race, and that win at Cork, it was a nothing race, but
yeah,
the visual impression he created.
Look, yeah.
The visual. I was almost asking myself, is this horse owned by Paul Byrne? He was so impressive and kind of just emerging from nowhere to be as heavily backed as he was as well. There's an awful lot to like about him. Willie's got a pretty decent record in this race. Rocky Boya in 2013 and Castlebawn West in 2020. I think Castlebawn West was top weight, wasn't he? Yeah, he was number one.
I think
what do you think of Adamantly Chosen, Katie?
I don't know whether he's quite got it in him. He's probably quite high up in the weights, is he? I didn't really touch too much.
He's high enough in the weights. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Either they had a go in the Brown Advisory, didn't they? And he got absolutely stuffed and returned to shorter trips. Seems funny that now we suddenly think it's worth a go at 3 miles again. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think they knew he wasn't good enough to win that, but they had a very strong team for the Turners, so they went, well, maybe he'll improve for 3 miles, and then just didn't. If you go back to this time last year, he's not beaten far by Jerry Calam. No. That was in the Grade 1, the Faugheen Novice Chase. After that, he finishes second to the ill-fated Mighty Potter, which, again, that's good form. Now, he's beaten a long way by him. He's beaten 8.5 lengths. And you could argue something had to finish second, and it just happened to be him. Cheltenham was a bit too much for him. Fairyhouse, I'm going to write off as just that's the end of a long, hard season, because I don't think being beaten 40 lengths by Flamebearer is a true reflection of who he is. He then rocked up again in a novice chase behind Kilcrut, which didn't work out. But they sent him off favourite at Punchestown the other day on his comeback. And I was a bit surprised that he was sent off favourite for that race. And he's run well. I don't think he ran badly there at all. Danny was on board. I could see a scenario, like if Meeting of the Waters is going to be the number one, is he going to end up being Paul's mount? But perhaps. But I could see a scenario where he ends up being Paul's mount. And like the other one that interests me a little bit, but I trust Adamantly Chosen more than this guy, is James de Burley. And James de Burley is the kind of racehorse now that he came off the tracker a long time ago. And I don't know if I'm prepared to part with cash for him, but he is a 25-1 shot. And clearly he's a horse who has ability. Like he was very, very good on his chasing debut at Fairyhouse. There was this story about how Willie Mullins wanted to acquire this horse, lost a bidding war, and then gets a phone call like months later from the Sweden Maneer team saying, yeah, we got this horse we want to send you. And it was him. And he couldn't believe that he was being sent him. That was 2 seasons ago, probably. It hasn't quite happened for him, but there is a big race in him. It might be this. Maybe I'm trying to overthink things a little bit too much there.
Yeah, I don't think Patrick would be able to do the weight on Meeting of the Waters, would he?
I can't imagine he could.
No. So
not with a Christmas dinner in him.
Yeah, and he was. I think he was a bigger price early in the week. I think he's now 10-1. Is he? I thought he was bigger early in the week. So there is money coming for that horse. So I wouldn't be surprised if Paul went with him.
And it'll keep coming. Yeah. Like you'd have to back it now if you fancy him.
I would absolutely agree with that. The other one I'll just mention before George comes in here is Hollow Games. And I'm probably more interested in him than I am in any of the, in fact, I am more interested in him than any of the others. You just get the feeling that this fella does have a big race in him. He ran a huge race in the Galway Plate. He was no match for Ash Tree Meadow that day, but it was a big run from him. He's gone up against Cocoa Beach and he's sent off a single figure price amongst the Gordon Elliott Battalion, which was so flagrant that Gordon would have the audacity to run 14 horses in an Irish handicap chase that the British media start whooping and hollering for the BHA. Oh yes, BHA, impose a restriction on trainers having more than 4 runners in handicaps. It's the scourge of British racing, despite the fact that it's only affected 4.17% of British races since the year 2018. But good job, BHA. Good job. That's what everybody needs. That's the real problem with British racing right now. Bunch of morons. But getting back on point, this fella off 11 stone 6, number 12 in the car. Jesus, the BHA is a bit of a trigger for me. Of a mark of 144 and at a big price, I could see him running well, and he's probably going to run here. But George Gorman, who do you like?
I'll just start with going back to Katie's first selection, Desert Moor House. Should probably mention he's bred by friend of the podcast, Harry Fowler.
Oi, oi.
Yeah, I just spotted it as I was clicking on him there. I hadn't noticed that before, but I thought you'd appreciate that, Emmet. So I thought I'd point it out. But I'm in agreement on Meeting of the Waters. I'm not sure if he's my main selection or not. I have two bolts to fire anyway. For all the reasons Katie outlined, I won't go over it all again. You obviously think he was only rated 112 over hurdles, but for Mullins to drop him in there, he must think 130 is lenient, or it's very simple. He wouldn't be going for a race of this size. My other one is Ida's Boy off Top Weight. Is 2 from 4 over fences, but has yet to run over a trip this far. Over hurdles, he ran over 2 mile 7 3 times, which resulted in a 9.5 length win, as well as being beaten a length and a quarter by Jerry Colombe and being beaten half a length by Churchstone Warrior. While he's carrying Top Weight, the trip looks like it's going to bring out some improvement, and he's a big old price as well to boot. He's 20s. The 16s, you can probably get 20, so very best odds. Ida's Boy. No, it's the 16s. I'd still take that. You'll get plenty of extra places on this. I think he's off Top Weight. He might struggle to win it, but I think he's solid to finish in the first 4 or 5.
I'd say they'll put a claimer on him. Jigginstown, normally they'll do a £5 or £7 claimer on him for sure. So that'll take a little bit of the burden of the weight off his back. So I can see your point there. Yeah, he looks like he's, especially off the back of his seasonal debut, he looks like a nice horse now. Yeah, no,
exactly. He's in good form, and I say they've teased going up to 3 miles over hurdles with three runs at 2.7. We're finally we're getting the full 3 miles and half a furlong to boot. I think it's a horse that stays all day. I think it's funny it's taken him till 9 to run in a 3 mile chase, but I think it'll be the making of him.
Final selections, Ida's Boy for you, George.
I'll go with Ida's Boy. Yeah, that's the main one.
Don't sound too enthusiastic now.
But no, I fancy him and Meeting of the Waters, but we've already gone over Meeting of the Waters, so I'll take Ida's Boy as the main selection.
Okay, well, you split your stakes, both of them, and I think you're right. Back Meeting of the Waters now, because he could be half the price he is now. Katie?
Yeah, I think the fella I touched on, Meeting of the Waters, another horse there that will appreciate a bit of, maybe a bit of good ground. I actually thought he wanted softer ground, but Chemical Energy might pop up there. There's a big pot in him somewhere, and he quite hasn't reached the heights that we thought he might have done when he first arrived to us. But there is a race there somewhere, and I do think he's going to pop up at some point. I'm not sure where, but I do think the 3 mile trip is his kind of trip. I don't know if he quite stayed out the trip in Cheltenham last season, but yeah, he could be another one on to keep an eye on for me.
You did hit the nail on the head there, though. Ground.
Yeah.
He needs proper good ground. Would he be okay, do you think, on soft?
I think he might get it. Like Leopardstown can dry out very, very quickly. Like I don't think we're due that much rain. I had to look there earlier today, and there wasn't that much rain due. And if the wind keeps up like it is, it will dry out very quick. So I just bear that in mind. And I know the last couple of I don't think it was Dublin Race Festival Christmas, there was a lot of non-runners because the ground went very quick. So that is something to bear in mind.
It won't be worse than yielding, will it? Like we've got to work off that basis. I don't think.
Yeah, it just dries out so quick. Like I think, do you remember one year there was ended up two runners in one of the grade ones because they locked them out because the ground went so quick because it was so windy on the day.
There was absolute war, fire and brimstone over that ground. Yeah, that's crazy.
It wouldn't surprise me if it came up a bit better than yielding. So just to bear in mind that could happen.